Welcome back, everyone, to another Money Essentials workshop. And today I'm really excited to be here with Joanne Gates, who's going to be talking all about our career potential, which I think is so important for everyone, but especially for women, learning specifically how to unlock our potential instead of feeling like we're stuck or maybe not tapping into everything we're capable of. So I'm just super excited for this today. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and hand it over to you, Joanne, to take it away.
Excellent, excellent. Super happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation and completely agree with you. I have a bio page. I'll talk a little bit about myself, but I will say in my 30 years in corporate America, continued to see just far too many women leaving the workforce after hitting either burnout or stalling in their career, not knowing how to break through that next level in their to wherever their aspirations are. And so wanted to put some time and energy and created a tool that I think can really help anyone, male, female. I tend to focus on the women in our audience because that's who I am, that's who I see not keeping, pace with our male colleagues. And for the first time in I don't know how many years, women again are seeing lower salary increases, not keeping up with men for the first time in, and you might know the exact number of years, but I just saw that stat, I think, a week ago, and it's so disheartening. So whatever I can do to help with that, I'm going to. All right, let's move us forward. So what I'm going to cover in what I'll call this masterclass is helping you as the audience member prioritize what's important in your career journey, have a way to score different roles and see different pros and cons that provides, identify the gaps that you have between where you are and what role you'd like and what you need to do to be able to win that role. And then I'll share with you a template for a one-pager that gives you a way to really turn that into a solid roadmap with actionable, tangible steps and a way to keep track of it. Okay, so again, hello, Joanne Gates. Wonderful to be here with all of you. I come from 30 years at Microsoft. 99% of my professional career was at Microsoft. I like to say I started as a 12-year-old because how could I be any more than in my 30s? But through that period, I started as entry level and left about almost 2 years ago now at an executive level. That's the partner level, if you're familiar with Microsoft levels. My real passion has always lied in mentoring and coaching other women, seeing them come into their power to achieve their career aspirations. I've always found ways to mentor, like I said, other women, whatever level of career success I had achieved. There were ladies around me who said, how did you get there? I'd like to get to that level too. And there's not enough, especially in a tech environment that's very male dominated, getting into senior leadership roles, leading organizations, that VPs, the C-suite positions. And the other thing that I think that I like to focus on is we as professional women, that's only a part of our lives. It's a big part, but we have different challenges in terms of the mom guilt or the imposter syndrome and all of the stresses on our time. I am a mom of 2 wonderful young women, and I want to do everything and anything that I can do to see more women be successful in their home and work combination of their lives and get to that level of success easier and quicker. So I'm going to go through a workbook, and I do have this as a free resource for anyone out there. So if you want to take a snap at this QR code and it will bring you to a spot, just give me an email address so I know where to send that PDF, but it's completely free. And then you can use it time and time again. So I think this will be a great resource for everyone. Okay, so I'm really just going to step through what this workbook provides and give some context and details around it. So when I do this as a live masterclass, we break it into different activities. And the first step is one of the first pages in the workbook. And it really is asking you to individually just brainstorm all of the things that are important when you think of your career satisfaction. And some of the examples I have here at the bottom of the page. So for many folks, we hear work flexibility is super important. I know there has been a huge shift to return to office, which has put, you know, levels of stress on women disproportionately. So work flexibility is always a big one these days. Of course, pay and benefits is a little bit of the table stakes. And then some of the other things, but what's important to you? Is it upward mobility? One that people tend to forget about is working for a great manager or having great team dynamics. If you have worked for a toxic manager, a bad manager, you know how critical it is to have this in your 40, 50 hour a week life. Some folks really want roles that are very challenging and they're contributing and they're being asked to learn and grow. Others don't want that level of, you know, pressure and stress. Some people want to be a manager, others independent contributors, and you get the idea. But the idea here is take about 5 minutes and really think through what are the things that are important to you, and don't just stop with 3 or 4. Try to write as many as can come to mind. And then once you've done that, maybe you pause this recording and you stop and you make that list. The next exercise is to take that same list, look it over, and prioritize it 1 to 6. So if you came up with 10, 12, 15, 20, I'm now asking you to not only pick 6, but to put them in priority order. You might have started off thinking pay and benefits is number 1, but would you travel anywhere? Would you relocate if it was the best pay and benefits, or staying nearby where you currently live and you're in a particular community? Is that actually one of the most important things? Or, you know, you have a fully remote role now. Is that going to be the most important thing as you're thinking about that next role? So again, maybe pause the video and really think through what your 1 to 6 are in priority order. Okay, so the next step is, I'm an engineer by trade. I like to use facts and figures, and very often when we're thinking of different roles, it can feel like we don't know how to make a decision. This one has these positives, but potentially these drawbacks. How do you want to really hone in on what feels like a better next step or long-term step? So I came up with a spreadsheet method of scoring different alternatives. So the way this works is you take those 6 items that you've just identified from the prior step, and this is obviously a made-up example. And so this person wants flexibility, upward mobility, then pay and benefits, great manager, collaborative environment, and a role that is a manager level. Now what I ask people to do is take your current role and list and score it on a scale of 1 to 5. And you're asking yourself, what is your degree of satisfaction in this role today? 1 being low, 5 being, 1 being low and 5 being high, making sure that I have that in the right order. So this person, maybe this is a hybrid role, so they've scored it 3, right in the middle. They don't think that there's much upward mobility. The pay and benefits is okay. They work for a pretty good manager. The environment's pretty good, and it's currently a manager level. So then I ask people to come up with up to 3 other roles that you are interested in. Very often, one of the roles might be you want your manager's position, right? You want that next promotion. Or maybe it's a similar kind of role, but in another company or another part of your corporation. Maybe a third role is doing something completely different. You know, you want to, I don't know, be a a chef, right? What are the things that you might really want to do that you don't tell anyone, but it's in your head that you've got this desire to go after? And so this gives you an opportunity to score each of those roles and really see what is sparking that interest in these other opportunities. So it looks like in this next role here, it has much higher flexibility. It's the same upward mobility. Pay and benefits is actually better. Works for a great manager, goes down a little. Has a little bit more of a collaborative environment and is also a manager. So you can see that these roles aren't hugely different, but this person's number one priority is the flexibility. And this role provides that to them. Now, they might not enjoy this role for a very long time if upward mobility is super important and this role still does not provide that part of the runway. And so similarly, you can create some idea of what role number 2, role number 3 is. And I'm going to move on to what all this does when the math gets mathing. So I'm going to step you through the methodology here so that, and again, all of this is in the workbook itself. So get your download and you can fill this out yourself. So again, what you're going to do is fill out your characteristics and score those current roles. And then the way this works is you take that first number. So I'm going to go back a second. So that was a 3 for flexibility. You multiply it by this weighting factor. So all across here, each one of these numbers is going to be multiplied by 6. Each of the numbers in the row 2 will be multiplied by 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then current role is going to have a total and each of the others. And I think the next page shows it to you filled out. So again, each of these numbers, so 3 times 6, 5 times 6, etc. You can see that the current role scores the lowest of all of these 4 roles that we're looking at. You can understand why this person is not feeling overly satisfied in their current position. You can see that role number 1 scores quite high, quite strong, a 78, mostly because that flexibility is very high. Now, when you get to that role number 3, though, it has that flexibility and it has more of the upward mobility. It scores a little bit lower on pay and benefits, but much higher in terms of a great manager, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see that in this view, this role is scoring up there at an 85. And so it really gives you, as the person filling this out, a lot of clarity on, ooh, role number 3 might feel like a huge stretch or it's scary, but these are the reasons why you're drawn to it and you're excited by it. You may not be fully ready to win that role right now. So this is still your imagining and dreaming. And let's be honest, in many cases, you're guessing at what these scores are. And the way I coach individuals to try to put in as much of an educated guess as possible is to use your network, use interviewing techniques to try to suss out if that person really is a good manager, or whatever the case may be. So you start off with your best guess, and then as you go through this process, you're constantly asking yourself and trying to evaluate if that number that you had scored is still looking like it is accurate or not. So I personally like this because so many of us stay in this middle ground of, I think I want it, I'm not sure, maybe it would be good, it's a lot of change is scary, right? All of the angst that we can sit in. And just for me, at least, and with the folks that I've put through this masterclass, they have found this kind of a tool to be incredibly helpful. And on a number of bases. You could look at this and look at your current role and say, it has a lot of good points. How, if I could get this upward mobility out of a 2 and into a 4, is that actually the best role? What would need to happen for that to become a 4? How do you need to show up? Who do you need to be working with? What projects do you need to be on? What skills do you need to hone to open up that upward mobility? There might be an opportunity there. There may not, but it's a good place to start because, I often find that if you can capitalize on a space that you're already, if you're successful in where you're at, but yet it's just lacking in some aspect, how do you make it? Are there ways that you can make it better? All right. Okay, so I'm going to pivot a little bit. So now this person has decided, let's say, to go after that role number 3. So now we're going to take the same kind of a structure, but we're going to think like the hiring manager. That hiring manager, again, let's say it's a chef. This is not an area that I know a lot about, but it was the example that I started with, so I'm kind of stuck with it. So as the hiring manager and you're looking for a chef, what are the 6 characteristics, skills, traits, qualities that you as a hiring manager are looking for in the ideal candidate for this role? And the second part is, like, at what level of competency, right? If this is a line cook, you might say, they can get there on time and they have no prior experience. But if it's a Michelin restaurant, they're going to have a lot more expectations of high level of professional grade skills. So the question for you is, from where you're currently at, where would you rate yourself on that skill? So let's put it back into a professional environment. If you are a social marketing manager and role number 3 is a senior leader at Google, is the hiring manager looking for someone who has 15 years of experience and you have 5? Okay, well, that's going to show you what kind of a gap you have between where you are and what they're looking for. Are they looking for someone who has managed global initiatives? And maybe you have, right? So that's a match. Maybe they're okay with someone who has had just regional experience. And if you have global, that's a place where they might be looking for a mid-level, I'd call that like a 3, and you would rate yourself as a 5. You have a distinguishing characteristic that sets yourself apart that is something that you can capitalize on when you get to interviews, to be able to show I can not only do this, I've done this other thing as well, and that adds to my unique proposition and why I'm the right candidate for you. In some cases, I had talked to a young man who was just out of college, and he was fabulous. He said, I want to be VP in 10 years. Like, wow, okay. So if you're thinking about this as a long-term career horizon, and maybe that was role number 3 for him, that's the VP. So you're going to have to develop a lot of additional skills. He came out of school, I want to say he was an electrical engineer. So you might be a fabulous electrical engineer. To be a VP, the other things that would be down this characteristic list are managing a large team, super effective communications. We often hear about executive presence, managing budgets, being great at talent management and hiring and firing. So from where you are today, you can do some of the technical things probably incredibly well, but you have not managed, developed, proposed a multi-million-dollar budget, that would be at a CVP level for the company that you're working in. And it helped him to understand what skills he wants to build as he's looking for additional projects or roles to put in his arsenal to prepare him for this 10-year horizon. Okay, so this has all been very fast. I hope you take some time again to pause things, really think through how you'd answer, activity 1 and 2, and then get a spreadsheet out and start doing some of those calculations and see what comes up for you. This is a tool that we used at Microsoft that I've customized because it I think just works a little bit better in my experience. So bring all of these pieces back to a one-pager so that it's very manageable and, again, actionable. So this is your career development plan, who you are, what level you're at. It's always good to date it so that you can come back every 3-6 months and see if you're making progress on it. Some key questions here. What's your ultimate career aspiration? Again, for this early in career individual, VP in 10 years. What are your key accomplishments over the last 6 to 12 months? I always recommend that we start off with positives. If we ever start off with any weaknesses or challenges, you could spend maybe a long time there. It drains your energy. It puts you in a very different spot mentally. So we always start with, what are 3 to 5 accomplishments that I have delivered, learned, developed in this last period of time? And don't let yourself skip this. Too often we downplay our achievements and skip right past it. Okay, so the next section is, when you think about your capabilities, what are some of your key strengths? Are you great at cross-team collaboration? Are you the person who is just the best project manager? You're able to identify risks really well, call people out when they're missing deadlines, but in a very productive way. Are you super creative? And that's going to be something that I always have so much respect for. I don't think of myself as a highly creative person. And then what are those development needs? And try to be as specific as possible. Is it that you don't speak up enough and people don't know who you are, what you do, what value you're bringing? Maybe the people directly around you do and your boss might, but that's probably not going to be enough to really go after some of these higher level aspirations that you might be striving for. Is it some of the areas that I hear a lot are, very often it's confidence, presentation skills or ability to communicate and really hone a message so that those key influencers are right there with you and you're gaining their support and you're moving your project or workload forward in a way that sets you apart. Okay, so as you think through those development needs, you're going to identify them, break them down into as small a piece as you can, and then really think through your action steps. Are you going to take a class or classes to close that or to develop that skill? Is it on-the-job training? Is it I'm kind of blanking. I mean, those tend to be some of the key ways. Are you going to take a stretch project within your current role? Is it an opportunity to go start something brand new? One of the places that I hear a lot from clients and folks on calls like this are, I really want to become a manager, but how do I gain the skill to be a manager if I haven't been a manager yet? And so you can get quite creative with things like this. Are you leading virtual teams that has many of the same traits and characteristics as a direct manager would? If the answer is no for that, are there places in your larger world and community that you can take a leadership role? Are there volunteer opportunities where you can be in a position such as that, so that you can demonstrate that you are learning the skill to give really great feedback, to delegate effectively to others, again, deal with all of the interpersonal aspects of when you're managing others, and inspire the best out of others. So those are the transferable skills that we think about when you're being evaluated as a people manager. And that first opportunity into a people manager can be a leap of faith, right? If you're in an existing organization and your boss moves on, you probably have enough functional knowledge where they put you high on the list of potential to take over that team. You're going to take over that team and you're going to go, oh my God, I didn't realize that people management meant all of these things. I have to write performance reviews. I have to, correct, when someone isn't performing well. I have to give a really hard message. That isn't something I'm very familiar with. So whether you are a new manager or you aspire to be a manager, and that's the gap, there are ways to develop those transferable skills. And then as you come up with those action steps, you really would like to put a time frame on it. So I'm going to, join this volunteer opportunity. I'm going to, lead my school's carnival. And so in 6 months' time, I'm going to have wrapped that project up, and I'm going to have learned a ton about what it's like to, be on a PTA, PTSA, and manage a very big project like that. So as you're going through all of this, some of your thoughts that I would love for you to write down are, what are some potential future roles? And in my definition, short term is the next 2 years, between now and 2 years, and longer term, longer, not long, longer term is 2 to 5 years. So really think through, what is that career path? Can you envision it? Because if you can envision it, you can make it happen. And we don't want to just think about the very next one, because like that early in career person, if he wants to be VP in 10 years, he may have to take a sideways move to learn a lot about financial acumen, because at a VP level, you're dealing with, very different components than just the core engineering, developing a widget. So it has to make sense in your longer term. And then a super key element is, do you have both mentors and sponsors? And if you don't, it's time to start developing this as well. And that can be part of your development plan. So I think about the difference between mentors and sponsors. Mentors are someone that can help you learn a skill, develop a task, have someone to vent with, and they can help pick you up, etc. The difference between that person and a sponsor is, generally a sponsor is at a higher level in the organization from you or in the community, and they are saying great things about you when you are not in the room. They are the person who are hearing about new opportunities, new projects, and they're saying, hey, I think, Annie would be great in this position. And have we given her a thought? So really sit back and think about, if you have people in each of these categories. Many times we have mentors, but you may or may not have a sponsor. And if you don't have sponsors, there's strategies to go build sponsorship. I don't have that contained in this masterclass, but there are absolutely activities to go for each of them. And I will say, very often we are hesitant to schedule that first virtual coffee chat or in-person coffee chat, because we're not sure what we're going to say, but I really encourage you to do it anyway. It is very, like, it's humbling to be the person on the other side who gets asked, like, hey, I'd really love to get some mentorship from you. I don't often recommend that you come right out and say, I want some sponsorship. That's a little bit like going from a blind date to like being engaged or something. Sponsorship is a higher level of understanding someone's skills to be willing to advocate for them in that way. Okay, and then the piece that I kind of skipped over, but at least at Microsoft and in many parts of corporate America, it is important that you understand that if you want to rise high in a particular organization, does your team, your company have a set of cultural attributes that they share? Again, at Microsoft, I was very proud to work there, and these are some of the key cultural attributes. And then grade yourself. Where do you feel like you sit on these different attribute levels? Because that can be a key part of what's holding you back. We often used to say it isn't just what you do, but how you do it. It is not okay to, have the getting hit by the bus, or people would say like the dead bodies on the side of the road. Like that is not going to be something that encourages others to take a risk on bringing someone with those kind of traits into their organization. So really think about where you do or don't align with those company attributes for the company that you want to be growing into, or where you are right now, if that's some of what's causing the dissatisfaction that may have been showing up in your scoring earlier. And I think, oh, wrong button. So put a quick checklist in here for you to kind of wrap all of this up. So as you're on that career climb, first off, I may have skipped over this. I think the question I often ask when I'm in person is just starting off and asking everyone on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate your current career satisfaction? The role that you're in right now, the future that you can kind of imagine. 10 being amazing, 1 being ugh. I usually get a fair number of 3s and 4s and some 7s. The second question becomes, what would make it a 10? That's a really fun thought. Again, maybe everything is pretty great, but there's a coworker or a boss that's just hard to work with, or everything's pretty great, but your commute is really difficult to work into your family. So that's what the envisioning your 10. Have a picture of what a 10 could look and feel like as you then go through these next steps. So then from the workbook standpoint, the brainstorm, what are those things that matter the most? What are your top 6? Think about 3 roles that could be future opportunities. You then score each role. Think about your gap in being able to win that ideal role. That helps you to then build your plan of what am I going to need to do to get there. Leverage your network, build your network, and then keep coming back to monitor your progress and make adjustments as needed. All right. So thank you everyone for watching the webinar. And then, oh, that was supposed to be hidden, I think. All right, I think that covers it. So let me stop sharing there. Annie,
Yeah,
that's it.
thank you. That was so good. I feel like it took a lot of what we often think about of how we want to make these decisions, and we have these pros and cons lists, but we don't have these assessment tools like you broke down. So I hope anyone who is watching just continues to like just reflect on what you shared. I think it's all so good, and definitely download the entire workbook and everything you shared. I'd love to wrap up with how can people continue to connect with you? What's your website, your social media, all those things?
Yeah. I am at execcoachjoanne at .com. And so that I can, should I put it in the chat maybe?
Sure. Yeah.
And then I am on LinkedIn. That was, can I send you I never know how to do this part. I was just
Yeah,
looking
no
that up.
problem. You can send it, and then if someone's watching the recording, it should be posted below under the video so you can connect with Joanne there.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm definitely on LinkedIn as Joanne Gates, and I have Joanne Gates Executive Coaching is my business page. I do one-on-one coaching. I've done 3-day boot camps on the same topic where we learn additional tools. We have open conversation, and I say boot camp, but it's 3 one-hour sessions. And so if anyone would like to find out more, they can always DM me, or go to my website, and you'll find ways to sign up to be on my email list. And I always make those available.
Wonderful. Well, thanks
Yeah.
again. For anyone else watching, continue to check back money-essentials.com for more upcoming workshops. Connect with Joanne, and yeah, just wish you the best of luck in your career journey. And we'll wrap it up there. Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you.